Welcome to the new year and welcome to Seeking God with Leah Klein, Health and Wholeness Coach. Today, my question for you is are you remembering you're not alone? Our verse is Psalm 103:19. The Lord has established his throne in the heavens, and his kingdom rules over all. So as you're facing the unknown, as we all are, we have no idea what 2024 holds. Are you remembering that you're not alone? You're never really alone. And lots of times we need to be reminded of that, because just because we can't see God doesn't mean he isn't there. And it's easy to get wrapped up in our own, shall we say, pity parties. I've been there. And be thinking about, what will happen if, and what if this happens? What if something happens to my health? What if something happens to me and there's nobody to take care of me? All these what ifs, which are really worries, is another name for them. And not all of these things ever actually do happen. And it's actually coming back to what we're talking about in the verse. No matter what happens in 2024, or to you personally or me, God still reigns, even when it doesn't seem like it. He is still in control of the situation. He is still using horrible people for his purposes. And he has done this for thousands of years. And if you doubt his ability to do that, I do encourage you, look at some history. Look back at what he has done through church history. Look back at what he's done through biblical history. I have been, reading through the Old Testament, through the prophets here recently, and it's a picture of how God will use an instrument of wrath to implement, to act out his judgment on those that are disobeying and flagrantly disobeying his laws. And at the same time, he then holds them responsible. They don't get off scot-free for doing what they do. They still get punished in the end. And a remnant, God's people, always remains. And you see that picture both in the Word, especially in the Old Testament, also in early church history, also in ongoing church history. We see this with Rome. Rome was used as God's instrument. He used it to stabilize the region and allow for the gospel to travel. But it had a purpose for a time, but also fell apart in its own corruption. And as I said, it's a recurring theme. It happens a lot. But ultimately, who is still in charge? God is. Who says, okay, I'm going to use him. Oh, and then I'm going to judge them. God does. It's not that we don't have a part to play and that we can't make decisions and vote. That is extremely important. Do what we can. Protect elections, whatever it takes. We do our responsibility, but ultimately we trust in God. Ultimately, it all goes back to him. So I want you to ask God to show you his presence, that you're not alone and that he is in control. And if you really want to dive deeper into his presence, I do encourage you to spend one-on-one time with him, particularly in his creation. Admittedly, that's a little harder to do in the winter. We have to sometimes do it in cars or find a quiet place in the house and shut off all the electronics close by. But we need to be connected with him. The more we are connected with him, the less we worry about these things. Because the more we connect with him and know that he cares about us, know that he loves us, then we know that we don't need to worry about those things. That God is there for us and he knows everything that's going on with us. There is nothing that escapes him. And if he, cares about the hairs on our head, he cares about the bigger stuff also. So if you want to learn more about retreats, stay tuned. We will keep talking about that because it is my favorite source topic of conversation. You probably have figured this out if you've watched more than one video. But to wrap up our time for this week, I want to finish with Our God Reigns. And I felt this was a particularly appropriate theme for starting the year and remembering where our trust is, who's in control. And if you don't know it, feel free to just listen. If you do know it, feel free to sing along. How lovely on the mountains are the feet of him who brings good news, announcing peace, proclaiming news of happiness. Our God reigns, 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 our God reigns. He had no stately form, he had no majesty, that we should be drawn to him. He was despised, and we took no account of him. Yet now he reigns with the Most High. Our God reigns, our God reigns, our God reigns, our God reigns. It was our sin and guilt that bruised and wounded him. It was our sin that brought him down. When we like sheep had gone astray, our shepherd came, and on his shoulders for our shame. Our God reigns, our God reigns, our God reigns, our God reigns. Out of the tomb he came with grace and majesty. He is alive, he is alive. God loves us so, see here his hands, his feet, his side. Yes, now we know he is alive. Our God reigns, our God reigns, our God reigns, our God reigns. And I will see you next week with another verse. See you then.